Welcome in to the Week 6 edition of the Fearless Football Forecast powered by Greenville Utilities on Pirate Radio 1250 and 930 and online at reflector.com. My name is Cliff Brock. His name is Tony Castleberry.
It is.
His name is Jordan Anders.
Most days.
How you doing, guys?
I'm good. How about you?
Let's talk about some football. We got all the Pitt County teams in action this weekend, and we will start with the Ayden-Grifton Chargers because they have won 3 straight games, Tony Castleberry.
They have.
They hit the road this weekend to take on Southern Nash, and Paul Cornwell's guys looking good right now.
They are rolling, and they're not waiting until conference play to do it this year. They're really in a good spot. Defensively, I've been really impressed with them during this win streak. And you know, they've proven that they can win home and away too, which is huge. They had kind of struggled with that, it seemed like early in the year, the last couple of seasons. So, yeah, you know, I like what they're doing. They're really moving the ball offensively with that ground game they have. Defense is shutting people down. I think they'll make it 4-0. I think they win.
All right, so the Chargers is the pick for Tony. Jordan, Tony and I were talking about this earlier this week, that Ayden-Grifton, despite the loss to Conley, really showed something in that game, and they haven't lost since that game.
Yeah. Can
they keep that momentum going this week against Southern Nash?
I think so. I mean, Tony hit the nail on the head. You know, they're playing as he is prone to do.
Guy's amazing.
Yes, you both are right.
They're playing really well. They got a lot of confidence going, and but playing well on both sides of the ball. Even though they gave up 30 points last week, I think this week should be another win for them. They're going to carry a lot of momentum into the conference season.
Jordan, Farmville Central coming off a loss to Green Central. The Rams beating everybody these days.
Yeah.
How do they bounce back this week when they take on Goldsboro?
Yeah, speaking of not having momentum, they kind of the opposite from Ayden-Grifton. They're struggling a little bit, and obviously, you know, Green Central is so improved and playing so well, but you know, to have only scored 7 points the week before and 6 last week. I mean, they're struggling, and we've kind of beat over the head of, you know, not having Shaft Parker, but still, that's, you know, he's not back yet, and I don't know that you know, they're going. This is a decent Goldsboro team, you know, that's got a lot of weapons offensively. So it's kind of hard to gauge how they're going to be, but I'm going to go with Goldsboro. Farmville Central's on the road, and just they are kind of in a funk right now.
Tony, you agree with that?
Well, I didn't think Parker was that big of a factor for them because all they talked about was, well, he doesn't do a lot that dazzles you, but he clearly is key to what they do offensively. So without him, it's going to be hard for me to pick them, and Goldsboro is always a tough place to play. I think Goldsboro will win.
This is the Fearless Football Forecast powered by Greenville Utilities on Pirate Radio 1250 and 930 and online at reflector.com. North Pitt heading to Snow Hill, guys. Boy, Green Central, as we said, has been awesome, Tony.
Yeah.
Going to be tough to take the Panthers in this game.
It is. I almost had them last week, though. They only lost by 1 point.
Did.
I picked them to beat Pasquotank last week, and they wound up losing by 1 in a game that Jordan was saying earlier in the week that Coach Bowl felt his team played only half of that game, which is kind of crazy because if they bring it the whole time, they probably get a road win.
Yeah.
But yeah, Green Central's not losing to North Pitt. I don't think that's going to happen. That team is absolutely on fire and climbing up the ranks in the state polls every week, and deservedly so. They're 5-0 for a reason. I think they'll go to 6-0.
All right, Jordan, we're still waiting on our first South Central victory of the season. Can it come this week against Eastern Wayne?
At the beginning of the year, I'd have said no way. Eastern Wayne's been kind of hard to read. They're 2-2. They haven't, you know, they were so good last year. They lost a lot of talent. They got a first-year head coach. And I don't know that this will be, like I said, it's kind of hard to read how with Eastern Wayne the way that they're playing, but South Central, there's just, and Tony saw them last week, you know, there's kind of the same with North Pitt. There's some potential there, but just too many mistakes and too much to work on, so I'm going to go with Eastern Wayne here.
Huh, that sounds familiar. First-year head coach, coming off a good year last year, kind of struggling this year. Both of these teams kind of fit that category. Tony, what do you see happening in this one?
You know, as Jordan mentioned, I covered the South Central game last week, and there were times that it was a 6-6 game at one point. They seemed to have all kinds of momentum. They had just scored a touchdown. On the ensuing kickoff, they give up an 82-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, and it was pretty much all downhill for them after that. There were bad penalties. There were bad turnovers. So every time, and there were a lot of good things, though. Every time it seemed like they would just get going, penalty, turnover, dumb play, and they're right back. It's a one step forward, 2 steps back situation. And unfortunately, I don't think they're going to win this week either. It's going to be tough to predict any wins for them, quite frankly, at this point. They got to show us more. I think Eastern Wayne wins.
Come on, Falcons, pull one out. All right.
I picked them 2 weeks.
You did.
I'm not doing it this week.
I understand. All right, game of the week, fellas. Rose at Conley. Conley coming off a loss to West Craven. Rose went to Rocky Mount, beat up on the Griffons last week. So, Tony, Big time Pitt County rivalry. How do you handicap this one?
I like this game every year, no matter if one team is, well, they're rarely ever winless matchups in this one at all. Both of these teams are really good, but it doesn't matter if one team's great and one team's bad. It is a good fight every time. Usually a standing room only crowd, no matter where it is. It's a marquee matchup, and we don't have to wait until the end of the season to get it, which I think is cool. They're opening conference play with this huge rivalry game. But Rose is on an upward tick, and it seems like Conley is going the other way. Conley's defense still can't stop anybody. That's worrisome. Rose's defense, on the other hand, only giving up 21 points last week at Rocky Mount. I mean, that's a good sign. Conley's defense, just get to a point where you don't give up 30. How about starting there? You don't have to pitch shutouts. Yeah. Just don't give up 30 one game and see what happens. You know what I mean? It's not going to be this week, though. I think Cornell, Powell, and Rose are way too tough. I think they're going to win pretty handily.
Rose is the favorite. Jordan, are they your pick?
It's funny that Tony said, he threw in there with it's not going to be this week because it's not. I mean, Rose is just that offense is too good. Even given the fact that they lost Ace Alexander and have had to make the switch to Ryan Goodwin. Goodwin's been playing as well, if not better than Alexander had been playing before. Like he mentioned, I was at Conley last week for the game with Wes Craven, and they just we're right there, but it just seemed like what really stood out to me was mentally after the turnover at the end of the first half that turned into a score, the fumble at the beginning of the second half, it just zapped all the energy off of that sideline. And if something like that, they're going to have to stay close with Rose through the first half and avoid those mistakes, which Rose's defense hasn't been great, but like Tony said, they're coming off their best performance of the year, and I think they're going to go in there and get a win.
All right, so Tony and Jordan like the Rampants over the Vikings this weekend, and that's it for Week 6 of the Fearless Football Forecast, powered by Greenville Utilities. Great weekend of football coming up, and Jordan and the folks at the Reflector will have you covered on the pages of the Daily Reflector this weekend. Tony, Jordan, great job, fellas. We'll see you next week.
Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.